Hey everyone, David Coe, the Coe Real Estate Group. Hey, thanks for coming back to watch another video. As always, if you haven't already, please like below and subscribe. Today, I've got a really interesting topic all about building ADUs in the city of Redondo Beach. And I have two experts on the screen with you. One, because I just got an ADU built on my property, and two, because Mark here is the contractor that actually built it. And he did a great job. He's done two now in Redondo, and I figured this will be the perfect person to talk about the process. So, Mark, thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Good. Now, you're a contractor. Talk about your construction business, and I know you guys specialize in ADUs.
Yeah, so we started about just like almost 4 years ago now, and we started just doing ADUs. I learned the ADU business by doing them for myself, for my own properties, and then started having enough friends ask me, well, if you did it for yourself, can you do it for me? Where I started saying, you know what, let's put a business together around this, start doing this for others. So we've done close to 75 ADU units now, and over the past 4 years, and are looking forward to a very busy 2026.
Yeah, and look, Mark, I know when you first started, a lot of those 75 were people that I knew, right? Like,
Yeah.
beyond me, and actually the other one we're going to talk about in Redondo is a good friend of ours together. And it's been great watching you go through and the progress you're making, the team you built, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about today, was the quality of your team, and why your team is better than an independent contractor. But let's kind of get into it. Like, there were two that you did, and I'll let you kind of describe how they were different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm an ex-resident of Redondo Beach. I spent 9 years, grew my family, started my family in Redondo Beach, and know and love Redondo very well. And really, in Redondo, you've got kind of two different types of homes. You've got your single family, one on a lot, and then you have your 2, 3 year multiple on a lot type properties. And they're really different animals when you talk about ADUs. When you're dealing with some of your older homes that are single families on a lot, you're going to most often have detached garages. So we're looking at a either a tear down and expand or just a straight conversion of that detached garage. When you're talking in the multiple on a lots, you're now talking about converting something that's very intimately engineered into your house. And how we go about doing that's really critical to make sure that one, we don't disturb the house too much, but also just when you're building it and you're permitting it, and then when you're done with it, it's now really right under your nose as part of that house that you're living in.
Yeah, and that was ours. We had our garage converted, and we had to live through a construction site for not for too long, but that was part of it as well. And then our good friend, you actually did a stand up. You guys went 2 stories, is that correct?
We went, but yeah, we went 30 feet high on it or
Mm.
25 feet high on it. And that was what he wanted. He wanted to put like a nice little loft storage up
Mm.
there
Right.
over half of the unit so that so he didn't lose the storage he had with the garage. So a lot of people go, well, if I convert my garage into a ADU, well, I'm going to lose that storage that I had before. Well, we were able to solve that problem for our friend by saying, no, we just built a second half story. So half of the unit had a second story. We put a ladder in there. We built some really nice storage in there, and that's now his extended storage, but he still gets all the functionality of having that ADU in his backyard.
That's right. Yes. So it's not a true 2 story. It's really a tall 1 story with room for storage.
Yep,
Maybe you
exactly.
could walk around up there, but it's not living space per se.
No, it's all living space per code.
Not legal living space per code.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, look, that's really what I want to talk about today is kind of the process. Again, I just lived through this. We just got our C of O a couple of weeks ago. And when we were talking about this, Mark, there were really 4 phases, right? Like phase one is the planning process of getting the plans together. I think between your two projects in Redondo, we were the opposite ends of the spectrum. We were
Yeah.
super fast, but the other one took a long time. Talk about how it was different.
Well, in your case, we had the benefit, and we were afforded the trust by you and Brooke that you trust us through the whole process. So we came in and we started with Brooke's drawings, and we put it together, and we got engineering, and we got everything done. And if I remember correctly, about seven under 2 months, maybe about 7 weeks. With
Mhm.
our friend that we kind of alluded to, he had already been working with someone else to get those drawings put together. So he was trying to navigate that world on his own, and without having the contractor involved, was caught spinning his wheels isn't the right way to put it, but challenged with finding the time and the energy to make sure that it was being PM the way it needed to be so that it could get done as quickly as possible. So I believe he spent probably close to 2 years getting those drawings all the way through to permitting. where I think in your case we were in, I think close to 9 months start to finish from in what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and like I think to be fair, like we didn't have that much space to deal with, right? Like we were converting a garage versus he had a blank canvas and could do more. And I know that, part of it was just over time they would change their mind, right? Like that also
Yeah.
would happen, and then they'd have to erase a bunch of lines and redraw them.
Yeah, I mean that's all part of the fun of designing your dream space or an extra space you want to have that's so integral to your home is you may start down a path and go, you know what, wait, maybe something changes. Let's go do this instead. And although that's great that you're able to do that, and every client has the ability to make as many changes as they need to, the consequence of that does tend to be time.
And cool. And one thing I thought about too, I think it's probably important to say that this is perfectly legal, and it's legal in the entire state of California. But
Yeah,
adding an ADU is perfectly legal in Redondo as long as you follow the building code, right? Like you have to have the right
absolutely.
setbacks and the right height limits. Like there's nothing the city can do to prevent you from building an ADU. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So in January 2001, when the law went into effect, signed by Governor Newsom, what he said in that piece of legislation is that any ADU that conforms to the rules, like you kind of alluded to, setbacks, all this other stuff. But if you follow the rules, it's called ministerially approved. What that means is no city or jurisdiction or HOA or grumpy neighbor can tell you no, you can't build that ADU. Now they may try, but you will always have the backing of the law on your side saying no, I am afforded the right to build this ADU as long as I'm following the rules. And in Redondo, to get really specific to what we're talking about in this city and that I love working in, is because almost every property has a garage. I imagine almost all of them do. You're either dealing with an existing detached or you're dealing with an existing attached tuck under garage that is part of the existing structure. So as long as you're staying within the footprint of your existing garage, you're almost going to be automatically, there's with very odd exceptions, you're going to be able to slide right in under these rules. Where it'll get a little hairy is if you have a detached garage and you go, you know what, I want to tear this down and I want to build a 700 square foot ADU instead of my 400 square foot garage.
Right.
Still very doable. Just we have to now be really careful to make sure we stay within inside the rules.
Right. Right. All right, well, so look, so you get plans done. The next phase of this thing is you then present them to the planning department, right, to make
Yep.
sure that you get approved from the city, just from a planning perspective. I know for us, one of the things that we found originally when we planned ours, we wanted the front door facing the street, and the city came back and said, no, we don't want to have that illusion of having another residence that's visible from the street. So they wanted us to move the front door to the side to come from
Yep.
the driveway, which we then still added the deck and we still had our door on the front. But, talk about other things that happen in planning phase when after you've done the plans and you submitted it. What are some of the other things, and how long did it take with Redondo on both of these projects?
Yeah, so really, a moment ago we talked about how it has to be ministerially approved. Well, that means they have to approve the building, but the city has a lot of say in what it can look like and how you're able to build it. So they can't tell you generally you can't build it, but they can put some guidelines around what you can build and how you go about making what it looks like when you're done. So a lot of times what we'll see is landscaping plans where they're going to want to make sure that the outside of the property and the landscaping isn't disturbed too much. So it still looks like a house. You don't want it to look like an urban forest all of a sudden. They want you to have some greenery, whether it be some turf or some plants, things like that. You'll see other things, like you said, where the front door is, where the mailbox is, where the signage is, so that if there's an emergency in the unit, that the fire department can see where that unit is. So it's things like that that come down to what is the property, what is the ADU going to look like from the outside? How is it going to be perceived by neighbors from the street view? And is it going to keep the holistic view of that house kind of intact so that we're not dramatically changing the street view of that property? That's really the things that planning is focused on in Redondo.
Interesting note, when we ripped out our lawn, right? Because we kind of hardscaped or,
Yeah.
drought tolerant our front lawn. I just recently completed the application with Cal Water, and we now have like a $3,000 rebate coming for
Yeah.
taking out of our lawn and putting in. And we had to have the right number of plants, had to be the right kind of plants. But that was kind of a nice little added benefit. Almost paid for the landscaping by getting that rebate back from Cal Water.
Yeah, I mean, with the drought challenges that we're always facing in California, the state is doing a lot to try to help and encourage residents here in Redondo and everywhere else across the state to be more drought tolerant, use less water. And if you can build that into your plan, because you're already tearing up the dirt, you're already going to be messing up your landscaping. Well, think about that. How can I now take advantage of some of these rebates, these opportunities to save a little money or get back a little bit of money or a lot of money? $3,000 is no insignificant amount of money,
Yeah.
and that can offset a lot of your costs. So it's a great to always look at those programs, even with appliances, water heaters. So some water heaters can be get rebates. Some air conditioning units can get rebates, laundry units. So you have to look at where can I try to squeeze a few cents out from my build by taking advantage of some of these programs.
Cool. All right. So we got through planning, and I was like, cool, here we go. Let's build. And you're like, no, 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 not quite
No,
yet.
not quite yet.
We still have to get to step three, which
Yeah.
is building and safety. Talk about that step.
And this is where we get into really and literally and figuratively the nuts and bolts of the build. Because now we have engineers looking at the drawings and say, okay, planning said it's pretty and it meets what we want from an aesthetic perspective. But now we need to get into, is it built correctly? Is it designed correctly? So this is where all the specifications of how it's framed, how the drainage, where the plumbing goes, all of the core elements of building a safe, long-lasting, stable property that's going to withstand our earthquakes that we have here in California and everything else that you want your building to stand, that we engineer it correctly and have it set up so that when it goes to build, for me, it makes my life really easy. I just have to build what the plans say. So once all of that process goes, I don't have to think about, well, is this designed correctly? Because now I have the architect, the engineer, and the city all signing off saying, you know what, this is the right build quality. Just go build it the way you're supposed to, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and that took us, I think if we planning and building and safety were about the same timeline. If I remember correctly, it was about 6 to 8 weeks for both of them.
Yeah. I think all in was about 5 months, or no, yeah, maybe about 4 or 5 months all in to get through both of those.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
that's
I
pretty
did.
typical. Just say that's pretty typical. You're probably looking in Redondo if you have all your ducks in a row and your architect does a good job. Also, one of the things that we do in MTH is we have our architect. We work very closely with them. They do all of our projects. They do a ton of ADUs. So they're submitting those plans with the intention of getting them approved very smoothly because they have the experience and they know what the plan checkers and the building and safety techs are looking for. So if you're going through and prepping your file correctly, yeah, 5 to 6 months is very typical to what to expect in a city like Redondo Beach.
I remember when we were just getting ready to submit, it was like, how long is this going to take? And your words were turned out to be very true. We're going to go probably 2 months where we're not going to hear anything. And then we're going to get our first set of revisions back. And then it'll probably take 2 to 3 weeks to work through those. And then we'll probably get one final little set, the one or two things they missed. And then from there, it's 2 or 3 days to kind of get through that. And then hopefully we should get building permit. And that was pretty much it. I would say, just off a day or two here or there.
Yeah, my crystal ball isn't always perfectly polished, but that we do what we can there. But one of the things you talked about was that 60-day mark. So part of the legislation that was signed in 2001, it's been reinforced as it's been amended since then, is the cities have to respond back within 60 days. Now, oftentimes what you get is a denial or a set of conditions that you have to meet in order to get it approved. But you have to get a response within 60 days per the law. So you know you're going to get your first set of response back fairly quickly in that 2 month period. And then it's up to your team, your architect, your general contractor, your engineers to get those turns made as quickly as possible, get them submitted, and then go from there. And we aim for two rinses through the washing machine. I probably see on average we end up with three. You have your big first one, a couple of things in round two, and then some plan checkers are going to find that one little thing that's going to make you go through round three, and then you go from there and get it signed.
Speaking of plan checkers, I know we don't have that many here in Redondo.
Yeah.
Is it just two that we have?
We have two inspectors, two field
Okay.
inspectors. I believe there's also two, there might just be one building and safety tech that is reviewing all the drawings for Redondo Beach. I believe there might be two, and it's shared. I believe Redondo shares with no, Hermosa and Manhattan are on their own. So I think Redondo is just on its own with itself, and it's a very small office. But what's also really neat about Redondo is about maybe 6 months ago, Redondo went all digital. So everything, all the interactions with Redondo are electronic. You submit electronically, you do your plan checks electronically, you pull your permit electronically. Where a lot of other cities, I'm driving down to City Hall and I'm meeting with people face to face. In Redondo, it's all digital, which is good and bad, but it's just
Yeah.
a different environment that you work in. And overall, the past 6 months have been very, very smooth now as we've worked through that in the city.
All right. Well, we finally got our permits. It's a big day, and then it got noisy and it got dusty because then we got to start construction, which was actually great. We were so excited. I would say that first couple of weeks was the loudest, right? When you guys were doing
Absolutely.
demo and underground.
Yeah, I mean, you got to break a few eggs to build an ADU, and we definitely had to break some concrete. And it's interesting. So Redondo Beach, one of the things that people love about Redondo are the rolling hills. It's beautiful. It makes the streets interesting. It makes the architecture interesting, and it just gives the city a really awesome vibe. But the side effect of there is you have a lot of steep driveways and not a lot of flat garages. So almost every time I've looked at a project in Redondo, we're having to bust up or at least plan on pouring concrete over that existing slab to level it out. In your case we leveled over it. In the other project, we actually demoed it out and started over. Just different. One made more sense in one case, one made sense in the other. We didn't want to go too high on the other project because we didn't want too much of a step. So that's one thing to consider. So that's going to be a little bit extra money that you face in Redondo. That's not typical in every ADU that I build, but also it's loud and messy. There's no elegant, pretty way to bust up a slab of concrete and pour a new one in. It's just loud and messy. But it is, we try to make it quick. So I believe in your job, we got through demo, pour, and underground in like I said, I think it's in under 2 weeks.
Under 2 weeks,
Um,
yeah.
and
And,
and
and
that's
by the
really
way,
the
to your
work of this.
credit, you originally said it would be 2 to 3 weeks, and you actually did it in two, which was great.
Yeah, yeah. And someone once taught me to under promise and over commit and over deliver here. But we try to do that, and it's but sometimes it does take three. So I mean, I don't want to say every time it's going to be
Yeah.
two. Sometimes it does take that third week for any variety of reasons. But we were fortunate with your project. We were able to get it done in two, and then really after that, you're going to have a nail gun. You're going to have a tile saw. You're going to have some wood being cut, but the the major interruption to life of having construction in your backyard, besides some of the dirt and inconvenience having much stuff around, really is over after those first couple of weeks.
Yeah, and honestly, we both pretty much work from home. We had some noise canceling headphones that certainly came into play, but that
Yeah,
was it. Like, a couple of times we'd have our water turned off for an hour here or our electricity, having to turn off here or there. But, we lived through the whole project and, it was certainly an inconvenience, but it wasn't like the house wasn't livable at all. In fact, we even worked from home. So it was a very doable situation. Yeah.
yeah. It might be worth as you're budgeting your ADU, just budget a set of good noise canceling headphones into that budget, and you got
Yeah.
to keep them after the project's over. But I mean, on the whole, we tried it. We try to. And part of the way my team works is we try to be very communicative. We try to talk about, okay, the next couple of days are going to be loud, the next couple of weeks are going to be loud, or plan your meetings accordingly. You generally have the ability to say, no, I can't have the house be loud this day. Can you do something else? And oftentimes we can accommodate that. So it's all about working with your contractor, the contractor and the client working together. We're a team for that period of time and working together to make sure that one, we're able to meet the needs of our client, but also obviously get the project done in a reasonable amount of time and get the job done.
And I think start to finish, like, once you get all that stuff done, everything after that's like all the pretty stuff, right? You start, hanging drywall and cabinets and flooring and tile and everything comes to life. We got done in really less than 2 months for construction. I know it
Yeah.
took a little bit longer for the ground up. I think you were to five, but Redondo kind of played a part of that, didn't they?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this earlier. So the whole city of Redondo Beach has two full-time inspectors. And what I mean by full-time is they work from 8 to noon, Monday through Friday. That's
Hmm.
full-time. And they have one new junior inspector they brought on as a contractor. That's their third person. So if you just have a week where they have a lot of inspections going on, you might be 4, 5, 6 days out on inspection. How's that different? Well, a lot of other cities I work in that may be a little bit bigger, you might be able to get an inspection next day when you need it. So it requires your contractor being a little bit more diligent, planning a little better, knowing, saying, hey, we started framing today. I need my framing inspection probably Tuesday of next week. I'm going to go ahead and schedule that inspection for Wednesday to give my day itself a day of buffer, but I'm not going to wait till Monday to schedule it, knowing that might push me out to the following week. So it's looking at your schedule, being diligent, and getting ahead of the game as often as you can to make sure you're keeping your timelines tight.
I think it was also important. You guys made up early on in the project. You got through some phases faster than you said you would. That was
Yeah.
important because we probably did have a couple of days towards the end where we couldn't get an inspector in for 3 days, and that had repercussions. We couldn't do this or that, So it's important to kind of get a head start because you'll probably give some of those days away, especially in a city like Redondo that's relatively small.
Yeah, I mean, and this, Dave, from all your time doing construction and leading big projects. Every place you can steal a day, you steal it, knowing that you're going to leak a few more on the back end somewhere. So we're
Yeah,
always working to just manage that overall schedule, try to keep it under 2 months, and go from there. And how we get there sometimes can be a little messy, but we get there.
yeah. All right, well, we finally got construction done, but we weren't done. We still had to get
Oh,
approvals. And, again, from my time in construction, sometimes that is the most frustrating part because everything
yeah.
looks so good, but it's still not legal. I know it took us, what, about a month and a half to get everything finalized out. Why? What would take so long in that phase?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different pieces to it. So in our case, one thing that we just missed early on in the process was the address assignment. It was noted that it needed to be done, and just nobody saw it. And then we got to it when we got to final, but then it just took time because we were dealing with the Thanksgiving holiday, we were dealing with just the end of year stuff, and someone had PTO. And when they're a team of one or department of one, and they go on PTO, well, there's nobody else to do that job, and so we just got pushed back with some delays. Another place we see it a lot is with the utilities. We didn't have it so much with you, but oftentimes we'll see other areas where Edison just gets backed up. We had a project, Todd's project happened to be right in the middle of the Palisade fire. Well, there was no way we were getting somebody from Edison to take a look at his project when they're just dealing with all of the tragedy and catastrophes that are happening up north. That takes, and it should take precedence over building an
Absolutely.
ADU, and it
Yeah.
absolutely did. So you just never have control over some of these things where these departments, whether it be the city for address assignments or utilities, it's frustrating because you look at the unit and you're like, we can live here right now, and structurally and safety wise you can, but you don't have that email from the city saying you have your certificate of occupancy, so it's not quite legal to do so yet. We just have to work our way through the process until we get to that point. We have that official sign off.
Well, we just got ours signed off on and we're super thankful. I think it was just over a year, like a year and
Yeah.
maybe a week or so from when we started to sign the contract with you, getting through planning, getting through building and safety, getting through construction and getting through approval. And we love it. It's gorgeous. I've been flashing some photos as we've been talking throughout here. I mean, I highly recommend if anyone's been thinking about adding an ADU, it's going to change the value of our home, and more importantly, it's going to change how we use our home. That's the big thing for us. Adding another bedroom and another bathroom for us had more value than having a garage, which we never really parked
Yep.
in anyway. But anyone else out there who might be considering it, please reach out to me. But more importantly, reach out to Marc. He's the pro. He's been doing this a long, long time and knows how to do these in Redondo Beach. Marc, thank you so much for you and your team. Your team was fantastic. All the guys were respectful. They cleaned up every day, which meant a lot to us because we had to live here after you guys left. So it was great to work with you and the team.
No, I appreciate it, Dave. Thank you, and thanks for bringing me on here to share a little bit about the great work we did. And I can't wait to see and to hear about this a year from now after your mom's been in the place and enjoying it, and hopefully all the things you hoped that this ADU would be end up materializing and really turning out to be reality. So that's our goal.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. All right. Well, anyone out there, I'm going to put Marc's contact information down below. Thanks for watching. This one was a little bit longer, and honestly, we probably could have talked for another 2 hours about the details of it. But hopefully, this was a good overview of the process. If you want more information, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. Thanks, everyone.
Sounds good. Bye.